In the summer of 1936, America stood at a crossroads. The Great Depression still cast its shadow across the land. Franklin D. Roosevelt was pushing forward the New Deal, trying to lift the nation from its knees. Radios buzzed in living rooms, bringing both comfort and unsettling news from around the world. The rise of dictators in Europe, growing unrest in Asia. But amid the political turmoil and economic hardship, a quiet voice from Virginia Beach carried a warning few dared to take seriously. That voice was Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, known for entering deep trances and delivering messages that blurred the line between prophecy and dream. Some of his visions spoke of healing and personal guidance. Others, however, painted haunting images of the earth itself reshaping. And in 1936, one of Cayce's readings would strike fear into those who heard it. He spoke of massive geological upheavals, of a future where the map of America would no longer look the same. California's coastline, he said, would sink beneath the waves. New York City, the beating heart of commerce and culture, would find parts of itself swallowed by water. For many, the words sounded like the ramblings of a mystic detached from reality. But to those who followed Cayce closely, the date and details were chilling. He described the Earth's crust shifting violently, beginning in places where fault lines slept, for now. He spoke of warnings in the earth, strange weather, unusual tremors, patterns in the sea. In 1936, few could imagine the San Andreas Fault tearing open with such force that the Pacific would reclaim miles of land. Fewer still could picture Manhattan's skyline mirrored in floodwaters. Yet Cayce insisted the danger was real and the signs would come. Historical records show that in that same year, small but unusual seismic events rippled along the West Coast. On the East Coast, storms battered New York Harbor with unseasonal ferocity. Most newspapers ignored the connection, but Cayce's followers began keeping journals, marking every tremor, every strange weather report. Was this merely coincidence? Or was America's future already being written in the restless movements beneath its soil? The answer, Cayce believed, would come sooner than anyone expected. America in 1936 was a nation on edge, still grappling with the Great Depression, yet witnessing nature's fury unleashed in unprecedented ways. In the same year, Edgar Cayce issued his ominous predictions about California and New York. The country endured record heat, devastating floods, and soaring temperatures that would sear themselves into history. Cayce's reading on January 21, 1936, warned that San Francisco might escape a major quake that year, but inundations could strike the Southern California coast and areas between Salt Lake and southern Nevada within 3 months. Particularly if eruptions stirred in Vesuvius or Mount Pelée. Cayce, Tripod.com Reddit. He extended the prophecy to warn that New York could ultimately disappear beneath the waves, painting a picture of two iconic American cities swallowed by Earth's catastrophic shifts. Wikipedia, ecase.tripod.com. At the same time, Americans were experiencing an onslaught of weather extremes. The Johnstown flood in Pennsylvania, triggered by relentless rains between March 17 to 18, 1936, flooded 1/3 of the city under 17 feet of water, left 25 dead, and triggered major federal flood control legislation. Wikipedia. Meanwhile, the 1936 Cordele-Greensboro tornado outbreak devastated parts of the southeast in April with multiple F4 tornadoes, causing dozens of deaths and widespread destruction. Wikipedia, July, brought a blistering heatwave of record fury. Cities across the nation, from Kansas City to New York, endured temperatures well over 100 degrees. New York City sweltered at 106 degrees on July 9th, and over 1,000 people died nationwide, including 76 in NYC alone, as heat-induced tragedies unfolded in urban neighborhoods. Wikipedia Almanac. The smoky, dust-choked skies of the Dust Bowl further layered misery across the heartland. Crops failed, fields turned to barren wastelands, and dust storms blocked trains and crumbled ceilings. Almanac Weather.gov. These real events, heat, floods, storms, echoed the earth changes Cayce had foretold. The nation, already strained by economic hardship, saw nature's ruthless power on full display. Every flood, blizzard, dust storm, and scorching day felt like confirmation of an unseen prophecy, a warning that our world was shifting beneath our feet. Could this be mere coincidence, or a cosmic warning from a man who spoke while asleep? By the mid-1930s, Edgar Cayce had become a figure both admired and feared. Some saw him as a modern-day prophet. Others dismissed him as a clever storyteller. Yet those who had sat in the room during his trances swore by the accuracy of his visions. Newspaper reporters who attended Cayce's readings often described an eerie silence falling over the room. Witnesses said the temperature seemed to drop, and Cayce's breathing would slow until it was almost imperceptible. His voice, though soft, carried a strange authority, as if he were speaking from somewhere beyond. In one famous session, attended by a small group of skeptics, Cayce described a sudden disaster that would strike a coastal city. He spoke of walls of water and a darkness that will follow the sun. Weeks later, a powerful hurricane devastated the Gulf Coast, matching his description in unsettling detail. Even those who had dismissed him before admitted that the coincidence was hard to ignore. The public reaction was divided. Spiritualists and believers hailed Cayce as proof that the human soul could access realms beyond ordinary perception. Churches, however, were split. Some denounced his work as dangerous and unholy, while others cautiously embraced the idea that God might speak through unusual vessels. What made Cayce's warnings so memorable was the way they lingered in the American consciousness. He didn't just offer vague omens. He gave timelines, locations, and specific events. For many, it was impossible to shake the feeling that his predictions were ticking clocks waiting to go off. Letters poured in from across the country. Some pleaded for him to reveal the future of their families, their farms, their businesses. Others accused him of stirring fear and exploiting tragedy. Cayce, for his part, often seemed burdened by the weight of what he saw. He once told a confidant, "It's not the visions that trouble me, it's knowing I cannot stop them from coming true." By the time America was creeping toward World War II, Cayce's name was etched into the nation's cultural memory. Whether as a prophet or a charlatan, people could not stop talking about him, and his most chilling predictions were still yet to unfold. As the 1930s drew to a close, the world seemed to teeter on the edge of chaos. Europe bristled with the rise of fascism, Asia simmered with conflict, and the United States, still recovering from the Depression, felt a quiet tension in the air. It was during this period that Edgar Cayce's readings took on a darker tone, warning not just of natural disasters, but of global upheaval. In 1938, Cayce predicted a conflict that would engulf many nations, a war sparked by leaders blinded by ambition and ideology. He spoke of armies moving like shadows across lands once free and cities consumed by fire and fear. While some dismissed this as paranoia, history would soon align disturbingly with his words. World War II erupted just a year later, beginning in Europe with the invasion of Poland in 1939. Cayce's visions were not limited to distant lands. He warned that America itself could face unprecedented trials, including internal strife and environmental catastrophes, if its people ignored the signs of imbalance. One of his most chilling readings in 1936 described the coasts of California and New York being threatened by immense flooding and seismic activity, a prophecy that echoed with urgency as Americans began to feel the Earth's restless tremors. Eyewitnesses and followers of Cayce reported that he would often appear deeply troubled after such readings, as if the weight of future suffering pressed upon him. He implored people to prepare spiritually and physically, emphasizing that while some events could not be prevented, awareness and moral alignment could mitigate their impact. The sleeping prophet's warnings extended even further. He spoke of the rise and fall of nations, shifts in political power, and the possibility of societal collapse if humanity ignored lessons from history. For many, these messages were both terrifying and compelling. urging reflection on personal responsibility amid global uncertainty. By the end of the decade, Cayce's prophecies had earned both devoted followers and vocal skeptics. Newspapers and radio shows debated the accuracy and ethics of his predictions, while ordinary Americans, farmers, teachers, business owners, shared whispered conversations about the future. Cayce's words had moved from curiosity to caution, embedding themselves in the collective consciousness of a nation standing at the brink of a new and uncertain era. By the early 1940s, America had begun to witness events that followers of Edgar Cayce felt confirmed his visions. Though some skeptics dismissed the prophecies as coincidence, many could not ignore the growing alignment between Cayce's predictions and the nation's experiences. His warnings about California and New York seemed particularly striking. In California, tremors along the San Andreas Fault continued to unsettle the state. Small but significant earthquakes shook communities, reminding residents that the Earth's crust was restless. Although nothing on the scale Cayce described had yet occurred, locals remembered the prophet's words. "The land will move beneath those who take it for granted." Newspapers occasionally referenced these unusual quakes, often noting the uncanny timing with unusual weather patterns. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, New Yorkers faced unusually strong storms and flooding. The March 1936 floods, which had already devastated the Northeast, became a benchmark for later comparisons. Streets were submerged, subways flooded, and the city was forced to respond with unprecedented emergency measures. Citizens who had read Cayce's readings murmured about the prophetic accuracy of the warnings. Some began preparing their families for potential disasters, keeping emergency supplies and taking note of high ground in their neighborhoods. Cayce's influence extended beyond physical preparation. His followers stressed spiritual readiness, emphasizing moral integrity, prayer, and reflection as forms of protection. Letters poured in to the Association for Research and Enlightenment, ARE, describing how Cayce's words motivated people to strengthen family bonds, build community, and approach life with more awareness of its fragility. Even in media coverage, there was a subtle shift. Articles that once mocked Cayce now reported events alongside mentions of his predictions. Radio shows debated whether a trance medium could foresee earthquakes and floods, or if it was simply an uncanny coincidence. Public fascination grew, fueled by both fear and hope. The idea that understanding and heeding these warnings might provide a lifeline against forces beyond human control. By the mid-1940s, Cayce's reputation as the sleeping prophet was solidified. Whether one believed in his visions or not, his influence shaped how Americans thought about natural disasters, preparedness, and the unseen connections between human actions and the Earth's responses. His warnings had moved from the realm of mysticism into the practical consciousness of a nation. Decades have passed since Edgar Cayce spoke of California sinking beneath the waves and New York City being swallowed by water. Yet, the echoes of his warnings still resonate in the American consciousness. For believers, his prophecies serve as a reminder that the earth is alive, shifting in ways both seen and unseen, and that humanity must remain vigilant and respectful of the forces around it. Modern geologists have mapped fault lines and floodplains in precise detail, confirming that the risks Cayce spoke of were real. California remains a hotbed of seismic activity along the San Andreas Fault, and New York faces ongoing threats from rising sea levels and hurricanes. While science explains the mechanisms behind earthquakes and floods, it cannot diminish the eerie accuracy of Cayce's words or the urgency with which they were delivered. Cayce himself remains a figure shrouded in mystery. He performed thousands of readings, many focused on health, spirituality, and personal guidance, but his warnings about natural and societal upheaval continue to fascinate. The Association for Research and Enlightenment preserves these readings, allowing new generations to study and reflect on his predictions. For the public, the appeal of Cayce's work lies not only in prophecy, but in the human story behind it. Letters, journals, and first-hand accounts show a man devoted to helping others, even as he navigated visions of potential catastrophe. His calm demeanor, even in the face of apocalyptic warnings, inspired confidence and contemplation, urging people to act wisely, spiritually, and practically. In a world increasingly shaped by climate change, rising seas, and natural disasters, Cayce's voice feels unexpectedly contemporary. His call to awareness, preparedness, and ethical living transcends the decades. Whether one views him as a mystic, a prophet, or simply a storyteller with uncanny insight, the questions he raised endure. Are we paying attention to the signs around us? Can we learn from history and nature before it's too late? As you reflect on these warnings and visions, consider this: the Earth continues to move, shift, and remind us of its power. Cayce's message is clear. Vigilance, preparation, and consciousness are the keys to navigating an uncertain world. The question remains, are we ready to heed it? If this journey into the mysterious visions of Edgar Cayce captivated your mind, don't let it end here. Subscribe to our channel to uncover more secrets, prophecies, and hidden truths that history almost forgot. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a revelation. We want to hear from you. What do you think about Cayce's warnings for California and New York? Could his visions still hold lessons for us today? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Join the discussion, share your insights, and connect with a community fascinated by the unknown. Remember, every subscriber and every comment strengthens our channel and helps bring these stories to more curious minds around the world. Don't just watch. Be part of the journey into the mysteries that shape our past, present, and future.